Hi, marketers. This is Dots, and welcome to the Marketing Leadership Podcast. With me here is Ailey George, co-founder and CMO at Content Monster. We will discuss podcasting strategies, preferences, and analytics in the B2B world. It's a very special episode, and I know you guys are ready, so let's do it. Lee, welcome. How are you doing?
Good, Dots. Thanks for having me, man. Good to be here.
Absolutely. It's really honored to have you. And I think you're going to have some fun. So, why am I saying really so many times? People need to know who you are, your background. And for those who are in podcasting, they know you. For those who are in content marketing, they know you as well. You want to tell us about, how you sort of rose to the zenith of that?
Well, I have a background in both marketing and media, and I've been a creator since before content was digital. So I founded Content Monster at a point where I was able to combine my years of experience as an executive marketer with my experience as a content creator. And those two things coming together kind of what were the design of a content marketer.
Interesting. And ah, I predictions are fun. Sometimes it's a bit overused, but I think obviously in this case, in this topic, we should look at why predictions are important. And for you, where do you see this whole thing going to? B2B, podcasting in general, where do you see, the future of that? Some people say that multimedia in general is the future. I'd say multimedia in general is here, but some people say, yeah, maybe video is more popular than other aspects, and other aspects are going to catch up and we'll have less text. There is now search generative experiences, and so there is less need to click, to read, and so on and so forth. Do you agree with those people saying multimedia is the future, or, we're still going to have text and everything else, in that realm?
Well, text will always be a part of content because it's a medium that some people enjoy to use to consume their content. And in terms of multimedia content has always been our preferred medium of content because it just took time for technology to catch up. Because real life is multimedia. Real life is watching and hearing and experiencing. It's not just reading.
Yeah.
So now that most of that multimedia real life can be delivered through our devices, then we're seeing more multimedia and people who preferred seeing and watching and listening now have a channel to consume media through their devices. As for B2B marketing, there's no difference. Humans
Mhm.
prefer multiple means to consume content, even for business purposes.
Hey there. If you're anything like me, have lots of website traffic, but no idea which ones are window shoppers and which are ready to seal the deal, then I've got a game changer for you. It's Lead Feeder. This is a tool I like using. And what it does is it shows you which companies are coming to your site. You can track their behavior and integrate it with your CRM, which will help take your lead generation efforts to make it more targeted. The result? Convert more website traffic into sales. Head over to leadfeeder.com now for a free demo, and you can also get a free extended premium trial when you let the rep know that you found out about Leadfeeder through the Marketing Leadership Podcast. All right, back to the show. Do you think that um do you think that COVID in 2020 sort of fast tracked the adoption, especially with multimedia on digital devices? The reason I'm saying that is that I guess, well, maybe this is official or not, it's widely believed that technological innovation was fast tracked by 5 years in just 2020, in just the year 2020. And it could be more, it could be less, I don't know. But I like to believe that there was some sort of a rush in digital adoption because of that event. So, what do you think about that? Because, of course, during that time, there were a lot of YouTubers, podcasters, virtual content creators just popping up here and there, and now they seem to be like pioneers, even though it was just 2020 when they started.
Absolutely, I agree. COVID definitely accelerated what was already moving fast in terms of, I don't know the exact number. Remember how it would say that, you know, 10 years of evolution has occurred now in 1 year, and, now it's down, so that multiple had a brief sprint where it multiplied even more than the usual multiple in terms of technology and how we use technology. I'll give you an example of at
True.
that time I was working with a corporation where, if I look back way before COVID, I actually done some sales training, and we had done some social selling training. And it was a push then to get salespeople to do what we would consider now content creation. Now, when the pandemic hit, it turns out that marketers, we've been selling from a distance our whole careers. That's what we do as marketers. We're not
Mhm.
necessarily out in the field like sales is. During the pandemic, suddenly sales could not be out in the field. They had to learn how to sell from a distance, which is what marketers were already doing. So they had to look to marketing to see, okay, I've been ignoring you marketing on this social media stuff, this content creation. That's been for you to do marketing, but then sales is twiddling their thumbs with nothing to do and not doesn't have the ability that marketing did to communicate to their clients or potential clients. So during the pandemic, yes, even sales got on board with the technology. The whole world had to figure out how to do what they did from a distance and using video and audio to do it. So, like you said earlier, the content creators already knew, the rest of the world had to catch up, and they had to do it immediately. They didn't have time to train and figure it out. That's why there's so many funny Zoom videos of people not being prepared or understanding what was going on.
Yeah.
They had to do it that day. Schools had to go online that day. Business people had to go and keep on doing business that day. And so that acceleration was forced, and we're still figuring it out. We're still seeing news headlines about return to work and remote work. And is that going to work? And everything's changed, obviously. And so now everybody, even your business executive, has to be some sort of content creator.
Yeah. 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 I hope they listen. I hope they listen.
They'll have to.
So to the topic here, B2B podcasting. I think it starts with strategy, of course, not because I am a strategist, but it's just what it is. So how do you work with brands that want to get into podcasting? How do you help them find what Rostimos called the content to market fit? Of course, that term had come from an old term called product market fit. So it's basically dots to market fit, everything market fit at this point. But how do you help find content or podcasts to market fit? How do you do that whole research? When it comes to standard marketing, content marketing, there are tools out there that are very available and free methods to be able to do those kinds of research. But in a podcasting world where, albeit a bit popular, still 5 million podcasts compared to 1 billion blogs, albeit still popular, is still very limited, with technology. A lot of things are still not right. School of thought says a RSS feed was a bad foundation, that it could have been a better foundation, and so on and so forth. How do you, based on all that limitation, help, from a strategic point of view, to do some research and analysis with brands to say, I think based on the available data out there, these are the things, these are the audience attributes or interest, and this is how we can connect to them through your upcoming podcast initiative.
I think the first thing you have to do when trying to explain podcast measurement to a business is frame it as a channel for content marketing,
Good.
because it's not just this new, isolated, siloed form of communication. It is another channel for content marketing, just like social's a channel, podcasting channel, videos a channel. It's just another method to achieve something. What is that something? If you're in business, that something is more business, leads, opportunities, deals, the bottom line. So you want to keep the big picture in mind. You're not looking at likes for your social post or listens for your podcast. Is how do all those things actually drive business?
Mhm.
That's what really matters. If you're looking to get funding for anything, you have to prove the ROI on it. And the ROI doesn't live within the top of those fluff metrics. It lives in how did it move the bottom line, right? So when explaining content marketing, you have to place it in the arena of all the other types of content you create, even including all your other marketing, advertising, PPC, SEO, all those things, and you measure how they as a whole affect the bottom line, not just how many listeners did this episode get.
I like that. Very good starting point. I often call those things revenue streams, but
Yes.
using revenue streams might be a bit too. I don't want to get into the B2B terminology rabbit hole. Uh,
Well, I mean,
but
if you're talking about B2B versus B2C, I mean, if podcasting is your business, if your
mm,
revenue comes from your podcast, then it's a totally different animal than if your podcast is content for your business.
yes, good point as well. I have written about that recently on social media. If you're mostly in the B2C, D2C space, you probably want to get sponsorship or something like that, or drive something, make that podcasting that revenue engine on its own. But for B2B, we've seen clients that interview their customers in driving advocacy. We've seen clients who um, interview people who are like MQLs and turn them into SQLs. We've seen those who get MQLs through the podcast as guests originally, which I think is probably the most common way that we see these days. And we see people like me trying to, hit, I don't want to use hit two birds with one stone because of animal rights guys, please don't come after me.
You can't
Hit
say that.
through, hit, yeah, don't say that. Hit two targets with one arrow by building my personal profile and also driving awareness for connection, if I will make that three, and driving awareness from some of the other businesses that I do. People also made podcasts as a means to generate courses. I'm not really interested in that, but I think it's also a good idea as well. But so many goals, so many objectives. But based on what Ailey is saying, it's really about how does it tie into the business. Now, we are not asking you to make UTMs and start to check how that connects into HubSpot and all that, again, another rabbit hole, attribution rabbit hole. Today is not the day for that topic.
Yeah, that's one of the main places where um, content marketers or marketers in general get caught up with trying to prove their value. I'm in the middle of a book right now
Mm,
about sales and marketing cohesion. And one of the main centers of that book is measuring the right things and communicating to each team what matters. And when it comes to content creation and podcasting, we often get caught too much up in the popular statistics of those mediums. And, I've got a background in marketing operations, so I love to measure as much as the next person. I could spit acronyms all day long, MQL, SQL, all that stuff. But that sounds good to those who are measuring the KPIs. It sound another
yeah.
acronym. It
Yes.
sounds good to measure and report on these things.
Yeah.
But no matter how much you move the needle on these individual metrics, if it doesn't drive revenue, then all that measurement doesn't mean anything. And I've been in situations where, as a marketing operations person, where I've been just asked to deliver the numbers. And, if something takes 5 steps and the fifth step is revenue, but someone's responsible for step three, they want numbers for step three. They want it to look really good. They don't care about step five.
Yeah.
That's always been a struggle for me because I want to make sure that whatever we do, whether it's creating content or any kind of other marketing campaign, that it makes sense for step five. It doesn't just make your numbers sound good. That we're honest about what we're truly trying to deliver, and that we don't measure the wrong things just to beat our chest to say, look at our followers or look at our listeners. Or, if it doesn't drive business, then all the metrics in between don't mean a whole lot.
Yeah, it's changing, I would say. And good segue. It's changing because until maybe 2024, which is when we're recording this and when this will be out, surely, um, we had situations where it was we need to drive the count. So I do dashboards a lot as well, hundreds in my career now. It's always about the counts because those counts look good and they help you get the bonuses on the corporate side. But now we are starting to, which is almost a shock to me, we are starting to see people looking for relevance, people looking averages, we're discussing up the mic about people looking at, I just don't want to market my podcast to get downloads. I want to get people to click play. I want to get people to listen for an extended amount of time and all this stuff. Now we were very used to the bureaucracy of counts, and now we are stressed about satisfying customers on the side of averages. So it's good. It's stressful now because it's a sharp change, but it's good. I think is where marketing leaders really need to get to relevance, revenue impact, and all that fun stuff. Here is a burning question for me. If you would pick between audio and video podcasts, especially for B2B audiences, which one would you pick and why? The rapid fire is not here yet, but this sounds like a rapid fire question.
If you're choosing between audio and video for your podcast, it's not an either or, it's an and, because different segments of your audience prefer to consume content different ways. It's your choice if you want to be accessible to that other portion of your audience. The good thing is, if you're creating a video podcast, then you have an audio podcast.
Exactly.
Uh, there's a leap from audio to video, but once you make that leap, you've doubled your output or even more of the content you can create, and the ROI increases exponentially compared to the increase in cost. So it is definitely not an either or; it's an and.
Yeah. So, I mean, another bonus question, I don't know if it's a bonus question, but something that just came up as we were speaking is audio podcast channels are getting into video, like Spotify. Video podcast channels are getting into audio, like YouTube. Um, how do you navigate that with clients? Do you tell them to upload a certain format so that's used all over, or for now we just upload as is until the tech is able to figure itself out?
Well, tech moves fast in every industry you're in. So the best you can do is plan for what you think is next. As they say, you skate to where the puck's going to be, not to where it is, right? So when it comes to trying to second guess the next best medium or format or platform to satisfy, you just do your best guess to skate to where the puck is going to be. Now, in doing that, there's going to be signals such as what is YouTube doing? What is Google doing? Right? If you watch the major players, Google, Spotify, um, and whoever has the largest audiences, Apple, uh, that's where you look to see where the puck is going. Where are they investing money at? They're not going to do that haphazardly. Now, we have to also take it in context of what are you trying to achieve as a business. Are you trying to be famous, like Joe Rogan famous, and have billions of listeners? Or
Yeah.
are you trying to drive a business purpose? And so that also should play into your decision of formatting. Um, so you mentioned, uh, YouTube getting into audio and Spotify getting into video. In all that, you got to consider who was there first and where's the puck going to be. So we mentioned earlier that when you do video, you already have audio,
Yeah.
which gives YouTube a real big leg up, because if they have the video, then obviously you already have the audio.
You can just transform.
Whereas
Yeah.
Spotify, their base may have more audio than they do video. So it's an uphill battle for them to find the content even. And even with the technology to receive that content, we can already receive audio easily. Everybody knows how to get audio out of YouTube who watches YouTube,
Yeah.
but everybody who uses Spotify doesn't know how to get the video.
Yeah.
So it's an uphill battle. So when you're talking to a client, just be transparent with all those things.
Yeah. Yeah, all the updates, yeah. And that's exactly how I've been thinking about it. And thanks for using the example of the puck. I think the Calgary Flames are going to be excited. Even if Calgary Flame fan is listening, with the ice hockey world there. So thanks for using that example. Even though today I'm currently supporting the Super Eagles of Nigeria because we are currently in a tournament, and it's good to say we are both wearing green. So that's all.
We got the memo.
Yeah, exactly. Guys, this is how we do it on the podcast. As you can see, we are discussing really extremely serious wisdom with regards to the topic of B2B podcasting in a way that does not seem very, I guess, PhD style, which makes sense because I started this podcast because I wanted to get an MBA, and somebody said, why not interview folks like Lee who know more than you? Which just awesome. Never regretted it since I did that. All I'm asking for you guys is to share. That's it. Just share. I know there are many other call to actions that people will say like, subscribe, smash all those available buttons, but also smash the share button, because if you take this podcast and share it with somebody else, that's another human being that has been impacted with what we are, learning here. I'm learning directly from the guest. I'm learning directly from Eli. You will also be learning directly, not just from me, but from both of us as well. So sharing for me, it's very, very key. I have one more question before I let Eli go, but before then, there is what we call the dots rapid fire. Very, very hot furnace. I am sure that Ailey will survive because it's got some nice biceps there. Very kitted as well. So I'm sure we should be fine with that. But before then, quick word from our sponsor, and then we'll be right back to finish up the episode. I have the last question, which is the best question. So don't go anywhere. Stay tuned. Welcome back, guys. So, like I said, it's the Dutch Rapid Fire. We call it the marketing hot kitchen or the marketing court of law. But either way, it's 3 questions. You answer the truth and nothing but the truth. Are you ready, sir?
I am ready.
All right, let's do this. First question. What is your favorite marketing metric? And I don't want to hear sales or revenue.
Attention. We're no longer in the information age, we're in the attention age.
Interesting. So, to be specific, there, are you looking at the first 3 seconds of a podcast episode? Because I know we work with some people who do full 1 minute skits on their episodes. We don't do that at Content Allies, full transparency, but yeah, so that's something I really admire a lot. So, what do you mean by the attention from? I don't want to use the word technical because I don't want to make this too technical, but from a metric perspective.
From a metric perspective, in terms of my favorite marketing metric, the reason why I say attention, because it's not just for one episode or one show or one channel. It's the as Mark Schaefer says, the cumulative advantage. How can you accumulate enough content across all your types of content to gather the attention needed to drive your business? So attention is the metric. How you measure that, that's another show. But attention is a metric.
Yeah, I got you. Yeah, no. That makes a lot of sense. And we had Joe Polizzi. Half of the episode he emphasized on why consistency is a way to also get you there. Top of mind awareness, demand generation and things like that. So that makes a lot of sense. Okay. Second question: how long do you use social media every day?
1 hour in terms of active using it, but in terms of being a part of it, probably 12 hours. Like right
Um,
now, do I count
yeah,
this hour conversation, right? Because we're
yeah,
talking, we're creating content. This will
yeah,
get chopped up and used for months.
yeah,
We're being a part of social media right now. So
yeah.
if you count that, many more than just 1 hour.
Yeah. I will say that. So from a consumption perspective, I'm on LinkedIn all the time. I have LinkedIn. I'm sorry, I'm on YouTube all the time. I have YouTube Premium and YouTube Music. 2 subscriptions. Doesn't make sense, but I love
Well,
cheese and
since you
stuff
said
like that.
that, Dots, if I added up each time I check my LinkedIn, yeah, I'm probably fooling myself. I'm sure my iPhone would say something different in terms of my actual time on social media. I know my battery gets consumed more from LinkedIn than any other app on my phone. So it's probably more than an hour.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's LinkedIn is key, man. Like I wouldn't connect to you without LinkedIn. So I spend LinkedIn like posting individually. My team posts on the podcast. We share with guests as well, so they can post on their own socials too. I use X as well to do some of those thought leadership stuff. I just open an Instagram account because I believe that there's a lot of B2B audiences on Instagram. So that's another added workload for me. But I think yesterday I spent about 2 hours just scrolling. I don't scroll every day like that. I just pick like a day in a week and just scroll infinitely, basically, and catch up comments and things like that because it helps, I mean, because of online, I can say I know you. We've been exchanging stuff. There is a dot somewhere. Is they see dots content like that's awesome. A village boy from Nigeria having that kind of access is all thanks to social media. So I don't think that we should get too guilty about it. We get a lot of 1 hours, by the way, business use. Then we have some 2 hours, and then a
Yeah,
few.
it depends on how you use it. I don't think it's even fair to ask someone like you and I because it's part of what we do for our living, right?
Exactly.
Uh, so yeah, if I were to say intentionally, how much time do I spend working on social media is different from using social media. We could be researching and still using social media. So it's so intertwined in our lives. I used to work in radio and people would ask, they used to have meters that would ask, like, what did you listen to? And they were always incorrect because people didn't realize when they were around music or around radio.
Yeah.
And same thing with social. We lose sight of when we're actually around social media, using it, checking it. So, yeah, I don't think anybody would answer that question with very good accuracy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And that's fair. Okay, last rapid fire question. What is your favorite marketing quote?
My favorite marketing quote is from Seth Godin, and it is, "We become creative when we ship the work."
What does that
And
mean?
that basically means, and the way I interpret it, as someone who myself is a creative, but also a business person, we can get caught up in making sure something's so perfect that we never ship the work. We never deliver it.
Yeah.
So that balance between quantity and quality is in that quote, meaning that you can be the greatest musician in the world, but if your music never crosses someone's eardrum, what value does it have?
Yeah.
Right? If you didn't ever ship the work, if you were a writer and no one has read a word of what you said, you might have brought yourself pleasure, but until you ship the work, are you really a writer? So that's why my quote is, we become creative when we actually ship the work.
Yeah. And I agree with that. And this is not to say if you're listening or watching that not being a perfectionist is a bad thing. If you make a mistake, you learn from it and it never happens again. And you just cycle that process until perfection becomes second nature to you. I think that's really what we are getting at there.
You
Okay.
know what I learned about
All
that,
right.
Dots?
Yeah.
The clearest line between that, the perfectionism and where you draw the line is, do you have commercial intent? Right? If you're an
Yeah.
artist and you just have pleasure intent or beauty intent, or you want to impress an audience, then you can work on perfectionism for the rest of your life. But if you have commercial intent, commerce requires a deadline and a
Yeah. No.
shipment. And
Yeah.
that's where you have to take that art and draw the line and say, okay, it's not perfect, but we have to ship it.
Yeah. Imagine if I have to wait for the right studio to run this podcast. Uh,
It
you
would
know,
never have happened.
to never have happened. I've spoken to every big name, almost every big name out there, still looking for more uh, from my kid's bedroom. So it is what it is. I mean,
You're
it's a
shipping the
good,
work,
it's
you're
a
getting
good,
it done.
exactly. It's a good camera, it's a good mic, but it's my kid's bedroom. So, um, guys, this is 2024. Do not slack. The economy is still not smiling. So, uh, let's move. Let's get it moving. Yeah. So the last one there is in terms of the question for me is attribution, goals. Um, there are certain things that I think are still confusing. One of my learnings today is not assume that everybody knows what I know, especially when you're dealing with clients. Clients come to me and say, "Okay, you're reporting on downloads. Does that mean it's a listen?" And we say, "Well, that is not what Lipson is saying. And this is what it means." And then they're like, "Why is Lipsy not tracking listens then? Is that a play or a download?" Those are my own common confusions that I receive in terms of inquiries and having to explain to people. Uh, you know, of course, I'm not IAB certified, but I have read enough of IAB to be certified. You get what I mean? Um, what are some of those confusions that you see in your own world as regards to, you know, definitions of what a download is, or what is this, or what is that? And could you maybe clarify that for us?
Yeah. So in dots, I know you know all these things, but the thing is, when it comes to B2B podcasting, for me particularly, I don't really care so much about traditional podcast metrics. I measure B2B podcasting by content marketing metrics.
Oh, okay.
So
Nice.
when I have a presentation that I've been giving on B2B podcasting, and one of the first slides to get out of the way is B2B podcasting versus entertainment podcasting.
Mhm.
For entertainment podcasting, those traditional podcast metrics matter. If you're selling on your podcast, if you're selling advertisement on your podcast, those traditional metrics, downloads, listens, that subscribers, even though that's the worst one, they, they matter to those kind of podcasts.
Yeah.
But for B2B, it is a business move, it is marketing.
Yeah.
And so those statistics really don't mean much for a B2B marketer. To me, I compare it to uh, if I'm a short guy, if I'm in a race with somebody with long legs, we're not measuring how many steps we take.
Mm.
I may take twice as many steps to get to the finish line.
Yeah.
But the question is, who won the race?
Yeah.
So measuring traditional podcast metrics for a business is like measuring steps for a race. It's a metric you can certainly measure, but doesn't really matter.
Mm.
Does it matter? And like you said earlier, is it relevant to the outcome?
Yeah.
And it's not in most cases. So I share those numbers with my clients. We discuss the numbers more or less from a matter of, are you growing? But
Mhm.
it's not a very good metric for business at all.
Mhm. Mhm. Very, very nice take on that. And I think I agree with that as well. Again, with marketing, every expectation is to be managed. So whatever we discuss here is not silver bullet. And I'm saying that in this case because businesses start to get a lot of ideas. How does this podcast episode drive a sale? If it doesn't drive a sale, I'm firing you. And all these crazy, insane expectations. I call them the Nebuchadnezzar expectations, where you have a dream, you don't tell the person the dream, and you want the person to tell you the dream and interpret the dream for you. So so um it it's important to manage expectations. I think there are lagging indicators of podcasting that could be used. Again, please go Google that what a download is. I'm sure someone has written an article about that somewhere. But when it comes to lagging indicators, if you are using it as an ABM tool, B2B podcasting, then your guest is definitely maybe your MQL or whatever it is. And you have a structure around soft selling and things like that. And you want to measure how many meetings were booked from there over a long period of time. Uh, because again, you mentioned something early, which I loved. You are marketing from a distance. You are selling from a distance. So podcasting is a good selling from a distance tool for that. And you can measure some of the other things around that. If you are interviewing existing MQLs and making them SQLs, there is a conversion rate around that you can also measure, and so on and so forth. So I think that's really what we are saying here. I know we can go on and on, Eli, but it's been an awesome experience having you on the podcast. You are indeed a trained speaker, but my goal here is to set loose all trained speakers. So when we first started, it was concise answers. Yes, no, maybe. I'm like, this guy doesn't know me yet. Dot is going to expose him. and I just
It's been a
unleashed.
great conversation, Dots.
Yeah, so thank you so much for coming. For those who don't know you already, a lot of people do, I must admit. Where can they find you? Where can they learn more about this topic we are discussing, B2B podcasting?
So the main place to talk about this particular topic is Content Monster, monsta.com, where we do a lot of just content creation in general, podcasting being one of them. And then when it gets into the world of talking about B2B marketing and sales and my speaking engagements, that will be found at aleejudge.com. With or without the period, a.leejudge or a Lee Judge. You may prefer the dot. But aleejudge.com is where you can find me as well.
Yeah, absolutely. So, guys, this is how we do it. If you want to see more, please go to my website, lovesmarketing.com. And you can also subscribe to the Marketing Leadership Podcast on Apple, Spotify, and YouTube. Of course, there are many marketing podcasts out there. I would advise that you check everything, including Ailey's podcast as well. But you want to check out my podcast because of the jokes. The more you listen, the more jokes I'm going to give you. So also thank you, Descript. Thank you, Content Allies. Thank you, Listen Network. We've been recording in volumes, and this will never be possible without you. Till next time, guys, connect the dots.